In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Shalom, dear friends. Welcome. It's wonderful to be able to be with you today. My name is Natalie Blackham, and I'm the presenter of the TV program In the Last Days. And today we're having Inge Buhs, and this is wonderful, from Israel. She works in Israel, and she's a German lady who came in the land 26 years ago?
No, actually almost 30 years ago.
Almost 30
1983
years.
I came.
Wonderful. So she's going to speak about what she's doing, how it happened, and the joy of being in the land here, and what the day-to-day of life is here.
Yes, that's true. The center of my life is in Israel today. Even coming from Germany, but today Israel is my home.
So you were born in Munich, is it right?
An hour south of Munich. It's in Bavaria, very beautiful. I was born there in 1960 into a Catholic family.
Okay.
That was actually my background. And well, I didn't really know a lot about the Jewish people or about God or anything. Actually, nobody in Germany actually talked in my upbringing about the Jewish people almost at all. Not only about not the Holocaust, also not about the Jewish people. And in my family, I consciously had nobody which I knew who really was a born-again Christian. And that's how I grew up, yes.
And so what happened in your life?
Well, actually, it was a little bit turbulent upbringing. My father was killed when I was 14, and I started to drink a lot and really looking for where is my way to go. I was pretty lost, running away to America and meeting wonderful Christians who told me about Jesus. This was the beginning. It took me a long time. I hope nobody else will wait as long than me, but when I was 22, I gave my life to Jesus. And actually, I didn't know a lot about any religious things before, or I even was a bad Catholic, to say, I have to say that even. And I met some Christians in Germany, and they talked about baptism. And I was still smoking and everything, but I knew this is what I had to do. So I went to be baptized in 1983 in January, and that was the day God changed all my life.
And so what happened between being a German girl living in Germany and suddenly now having a citizenship in Israel?
That is a big miracle, yes, it's wonderful.
And living here?
Yes. Well, that is a long story, actually, okay? But what happened actually was that in 1983, when I came from being baptized, somebody gave me a scripture from the book of Ruth. Wherever you go, I shall go. Wherever you be, I shall be. Your people are my people, and your God is my God. Now, at that time, I didn't even have really a whole Bible, and I didn't know the story. But I was a waitress in a Bavarian beer restaurant and didn't want to do this anymore. And I had excellent teaching about Israel and Christian responsibility, and that the Jewish roots are our roots, and that Jesus was Jewish. I got that all from the beginning, which was a big blessing for me. So 5 months later, I came as a volunteer to Israel. That was the beginning.
So how old were you?
I was 22 years old, yes.
And so
all on my own. And
so where did you help? What did you
well,
do?
there were German Christians who knew other Christians in a farm up in the north, and they needed help, so that's how I came and connected to some believers here, went back to Germany, doing studies to help old people. And as I prayed, Lord, where do you want me? What would you like me to do after these studies? It was only for a few months. I received a letter from somebody, can you not come to Israel to help us? Helping with old people in their homes. Now, at that time, I don't think I consciously thought about Holocaust survivors at all. The only thing which I really knew about the Holocaust was one TV series in Germany, which really affected me a lot, but it wasn't like it was a personal thing. It was still something which happened, which was terrible, but not even conscious that it was my own people who did it. And so that was all. But here I met slowly survivors. And there were many stages. I didn't know at that time I would stay in Israel so long. It was just a period. And then God brought me 2 years to a German doctor who also wanted to help the Jewish people also because of the background. And it was very difficult for me. I had to learn discipline, obedience, all of this, which I have never learned in my youth. And at that German doctor's place, I became best friends with a lady who happened to be Auschwitz survivor. And because of her, the work with the Holocaust survivors started. And I'm with her now this February, 26 years.
So she was a German lady?
No, Polish.
Oh, a Polish lady living in Germany?
She lived here.
Oh, sorry, when you came to live, so you work with a doctor
A German
here.
Doctor who lived here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I should have
No,
explained that better. So that's a German doctor who lived in Israel. She just died, and she also tried to help Jewish people with her doctor's skills. So I worked with her 2 years here, and this Jewish lady, who was born in Germany actually, no, in Poland, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. So this Jewish lady who was born in Poland was her patient.
Okay.
And we became like best friends.
So she's still alive?
Yes, she's still alive. She's 89 and she's very well. Sometimes I think she has a better memory than me. She's well. Yes.
And you are working, so you are helping her?
Yes, I help her whatever she needs. At this moment, we actually sent a volunteer to her, but I feel I'm responsible for her, yes. She could never have own children after Auschwitz, and the people from Poland, the big family, every single one was killed. There is a part of the family alive, but they were in a different place when the war started. And literally everybody in Poland from her family were all killed.
How many, there is, obviously the Holocaust survivors now are less and less.
That's true.
So how is it for you? Did you help a lot and there is less now? I mean, for you, you are helping them and suddenly they die. How is it for you?
Yeah, that is very difficult.
Yes.
I always knew this time would come. And of course, I dealt with the most sick Holocaust survivors. For me, it's very important maybe not take as many survivors, but to have a few which we walk through even till they die. And especially people who have nobody who takes them to chemotherapy and something like this, so you get very attached to them. And you can in your mind always say, well, I know it's happening, but when you actually lose them, it's very hard. It was very hard for me the last years to lose many of them. But on the other hand, I have to say, I'm very privileged. It was a big privilege for me, not only to help the Holocaust survivors, but to spend my life with them.
So why?
Why? I am 100% sure that that is what God wanted me to do. So when I started to meet Mrs. Steiner, that's the name of the lady in Tel Aviv where everything started, she asked me to move in her home. She could never have own children, and she had hardly anybody. Her husband had died. He had children, but they weren't close at that time, and she was very lonely. So I moved in her house, and then I actually saw how the survivors suffer every day. If a Shabbat comes, if their Jewish families are so close, and family is one of the highest things, I would say, after God. But they suffer with nightmares, depressions. And when I saw that, and through her meeting many other survivors, I actually understood that in which conditions the Holocaust survivors are. But the very surprising thing is, through all their suffering, most of them did not become bitter. And I think that is a big example till today for me. Even as a Christian, sometimes we harbor things and cannot forgive. And these survivors who suffered so much, there are very few I ever met who actually had a bitter root. They, through suffering, actually become beautiful. And for me, they are big examples. So that's a big privilege to have seen this. And through her, I met many other Holocaust survivors. And I started to understand that this is my German people who actually caused all this suffering. And then I needed to confront this whole question as a German. And you all of us, I think, consciously or subconsciously are confronted with shame, with guilt, and the question, what did my own family, never have approached it. Now, I couldn't because my father already was dead when I was 14. But these questions are coming up. And then maybe also serving in the beginning out of wrong motives, because we cannot turn it back. The very surprising thing which happened is that I became very whole to be a German.
A very
whole. I don't feel anymore that I need to do it because of guilt. I feel it's a privilege.
So is it like almost that you've been healed of all the
I do
things?
believe that what happened, and I never knew I needed that healing. I never knew that. And how interesting that God would use the Holocaust survivors to do this in us. But he did this, and he does the most unusual things. So through this Holocaust survivor, Bella Steiner, I met many survivors. And I really know that that's why God sent me here. And I didn't need to look for Holocaust survivors. Wherever I went, if it was a supermarket, a store, at a bus stop, I met them. And I never needed to look for them and could stay with many people many years. And the only thing I could do, I had no money. I lived in her house. I didn't have hardly any pocket money, was never sent out by a church. But what I could do is clean their house, bring them to the doctor, bring them to the dialysis, wash them and shower them. And that's what I started to do. That was the beginning years in 1987 when I started it.
So did you just go to them?
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
So this is amazing. How did they react with you?
Well, very different also. I have to say that most of them never had an animosity. I have to say this. But I also want to say that today meeting survivors is very different than 26 years ago. 26 years ago, there were not so many Christian organizations or German organizations working with survivors. There were very few. In Israel were two very major ones I knew, German organizations who opened the ground for us, I would say. But it was still different. They were more suspicious of Christians who love us. They were not used to that. And then a German Christian. But I think when I knew that they had a problem with me, I also knew it wasn't me. So then you just kept on blessing again, serving again. And when the breakthrough came, it was a real deep relationship. And I was blessed with many of these deep relationships.
And so you've done it yourself, but now you say you had some volunteers?
Yes, now there came big changes over the years, yes. In all these years, we did many different things. The main thing was the very practical work. For me, it was important, even if we could help financially, for me it was important to be willing as a German to wash the survivors' feet. And that meant cleaning toilets or whatever, go to the market, whatever. And I saw many Holocaust survivors very alone at home. And I always, there started a wish in me to say, oh, if we could just help them, if we could have a home. Then I went with Christian Friends of Israel. I worked with them 5 years, only 1 day a week, but for 5 years in the Holocaust department, maybe from 93 to 98, something like this. We went to Russia 3 times. And there were Holocaust survivors in Russia where I always thought they would immigrate to Israel if they would just know where they go to, who takes care of them, how much do I have to pay, all these fears. And I knew that the Jewish agency does a great job. I mean, they really take care of them very good. But that wasn't enough for some of them, not knowing what would happen here. And this is how a wish in my heart happened, that we could rent a home and just say, come, and we as German Christians, then not just me alone, of course, would take care of you. And thanks God he did that. We could open a small organization, and it wasn't to have another Christian organization. It wasn't about this, but you needed all the legal ground to open this home. And the paperwork, which I hate. I'm sorry, I like to be with old people and with my people, but it's a part of the job. And so we could, in 2000, open a small organization which is called Yakov.
Yakov. What is the name? What does it mean?
that was also an interesting story for me. I wanted to call it Comfort My People. And the Ministry of Interior said you can have this organization, but not that name. And I knew a name means a lot to the Jewish people. A little bit contrary to us, they really think a lot about a name, and it's expressing a lot. And I couldn't find a name. And then Mrs. Steiner, the lady where I started with to work with, she said to me, "Can you please remember my grandfather?" That was her biggest wish. He was her hero, and the Nazis had killed him. And his name was Yakov. So the Jewish people always remember and commemorate with a light, with a candle. And candle means Ner for Yakov, Thalenberg, but symbolic also for Israel. And what I didn't know is that he actually had a home where he took all the needy people, which was actually my vision. Yeah, I didn't know this, but it was like a confirmation. So that's where the name came from.
Wonderful. So you almost carry on the vision that he had. And
Yes.
And in Israel.
That is true.
Because he was living in Poland.
And through this name in the internet, actually, some other family members of Mrs. Steiner found us. Yeah, I was already 20 years with her, and I got an email from Brazil from some great-grandson of Yakov Thalenberg who found us because of that and connected then later on to Mrs. Steiner. Yeah.
Now tell me, you told me also about what's happening like practically now with the police.
Yeah, that's
the new things that's happening, and tell us a bit about the story, because it's like day to day, and suddenly an opening is happening.
Yeah, that's true. Because we are in a real transition time, you know. I mean, many people lived in this house. Some of them for a year, some for a few years till they got government places. But others for 11 years, very ill, and we nursed them till the end, but many of them died last year. So our home actually changed from a pure living space into a center for survivors, where still a Holocaust survivor lives, volunteer live there, and we have it for many different activities. One of the activities is very interesting for me, and it happened again through something very interesting, through a break-in.
Coincidence. Oh, okay, yes.
Yes, yeah.
But there is no coincidence. This is what I love. The Jewish people always say that, and I love how they say there is no coincidence in life.
And they know it, and it is true. They are aware that God's hand is in all of it, and the Lord said that everything turns to the best for those who love Him. And we had a thief in our house, and he stole the volunteer's computer, and of course it's not pleasant.
No.
And because of this, the police got involved, and I one day got a phone call from a police officer who just said his first name. I don't think that would ever happen in Germany. And he said, "I'm Corby, and we would like to know about your work." So he made an appointment and came with other police officers to our house. And we had a coffee time with German guests and with Holocaust survivors. And in a very big patience and honor, this police officer was really listening to every story. And it was a very young officer. It happened to be one of the highest officers of the north of Jerusalem at that time. And he said to these old people, you are the VIPs for us. So if whatever you need, we will help you. And they actually kept this promise. Even if he moved away or others had to move from this police station, they have been very wonderful to the old people. Sometimes they come and just sit with them and talk to them. They assure them that they are not alone and that they can always turn to them when they need it. And I have to say, the honor and respect and care which this Israeli police showed to the Holocaust survivors is an example for me. I even said, as a Christian volunteer, or to my volunteers, I think we should learn from them. And it's beautiful. So we are blessed with this.
So this is very interesting to know that working here in Israel, and I know because we live and we discover so many things by just observing how they are.
Yes.
And you say how they can show like the compassion And they are an example for us, like the
Absolutely.
police.
In everyday's life,
Yes.
they are really an example to me.
And
Yes.
you were speaking, they were doing some presents for the Holocaust.
Yes, right now they would like, the police told me that it's important for them that the police itself, they themselves, would bring for Purim, this is a tradition in the Purim feast coming up, that they would go into the homes and bring presents to the Holocaust survivors.
Now we have to understand that too, because and you just touched a bit about it, but again we saw it, like family is very important and the feasts are very important.
The feasts are very important.
So if you're a Holocaust survivor and you know that the feasts are very important, but you lost all your family.
But
so
it is very precious if a young police officer comes and brings you something, and for them to know that they have some place to turn to. And that's very precious. I even have seen a police officer who saw a Holocaust survivor who is alone, starting to invite him in his own family for Shabbat now with the kids. And I think that is beautiful. And it is a part of Israel which is so beautiful and which is not seen enough. And even as a Christian, I would say I'm very blessed with this, very blessed to see the community and how they help each other. And yeah, I'm very blessed with it.
So yeah, well, carry on with that. How is it for you? You came as a young German here in Israel, and now, almost 30 years after, you are still in Israel. How does your life has changed?
Look, this is the whole center of my life has been here. I mean, almost 30 years. And I have still feelings for Germany, and I'm still German as well. And I don't want to forget where I came from. I can say that I'm very whole as a German. I'm not coming here out of bad guilt or things like this today. That's fine. And yes, and I have feelings for Bavaria, of course, because I was born there. It's beautiful, but I don't feel at home there anymore. I have to say the Jewish people didn't only open their doors for me, they opened their hearts. And it sometimes takes a while, but once they open their hearts, they're all the way with you. And I appreciate that. And the honesty in them I appreciate in living here. It's sometimes very rough, but you know where you're at, and it is honest, and I deal with it very good. So I see also developments in Germany, the next generations, where I'm very happy that they don't carry all these skills, or they're easier dealing with it and working it through. And I see many of these young children, maybe youth, coming here to Israel and also confronting the past in Yad Vashem, but also many groups come in our home, and we make many meetings with the Holocaust survivors, and they can ask questions. And I have seen the Holocaust survivors themselves releasing this younger generation and say, it is not your fault. And I think it's important. And I believe that will make a difference in Germany, in their lives, but also in the lives of the survivors. So it's not, with the survivors I have examples. Sometimes I'm annoyed about everyday's life, but actually I have such a deep respect for the Jewish people. And God did a big miracle. I became Israeli last year.
Yes, this is just...
And I have to say I'm very proud to be an Israeli, and I'm proud to be a part of these people. And to be honest, I have still to find my way a little bit in this, because up till now I was German in Israel. So it is a little change for me in my...
So you've been able to vote?
Yes, I went to vote. And my neighbors, they took me to vote, and they said they feel very privileged to take a new citizen to vote. And I got breakfast in a restaurant, and then the next neighbor checked if I went to vote. And yes, I feel very honored and privileged.
Wonderful. Now, what do you want to speak, or what do you want to bring to the people, the viewers at home? Like, we carry something as our generation. We are the same generation, which is interesting. What can we do for the next generation?
Look, I think one of the biggest problems in Germany was, I don't know how it is in France and England, and of course we carry the guilt, okay? It was a little bit denial and quietness. there was just silence. It was like, it was a constant presence of the Holocaust, of the guilt, of the past, but not addressing it. And I feel that I have to say that I actually believe many Christians haven't dealt with it. And I feel it wasn't easy for me to be always confronted with it, but afterwards I see what a privilege it was. I couldn't run away from it, and I can stand different today with it. Now, I don't want people to run around with a guilt all their lives, and I don't believe Jesus wants us to do it. And in order to make really a difference for the Jewish people and for Israel, it would be very good to deal with this. Once we dealt with it, we will be really more able to stand, not just with the Jewish people, with the people of God. It is His people. Mm-hmm. And as He gave to me in the beginning the scripture, your people are my people, and your God is my God. And in order to have this real commitment, I believe we have to work it through. With the news, of course, there are so many bad influences and so many bad stories about Israel. And I wished everybody would just be open to see the truth, because everyday's life here is absolutely the opposite. And it's very hurtful sometimes. And it's very hurtful for Holocaust survivors who still live, and there's a Holocaust denial going on. Mm-hmm. People who are even educated who would say it didn't happen. That's a very big wound. And I think that true repentance, and that's of course more for the German people now, is sometimes not to 20 times pray the same prayer, but to get up and say, what can I do? Mm-hmm. And of course nobody needs to come. Yes, action. Actually, yes. And nobody needs to come to Israel and do everything. But if God calls you, please, we're very happy. But that's not what I mean. Everybody has a place in it. And what I also learned from the Jewish people, they are not quiet if lies going on usually. They usually confront it, they usually stand up. And we in Europe, many times we are annoyed about it, but we don't do anything. Mm-hmm. So I would challenge people to get active and do something. Yes.
Thank you, Inge, for coming and share your life here. And don't forget, friends, we're living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.